All right, everyone. So here we are today. We're going to do a little podcast episode with one of the student athletes here at the University of Pittsburgh. So today, beside me, I have the pleasure of interviewing Joe Vandesar, one of the goalies for the Pitt's men's D1 soccer team. And we're going to go over some of the different teachings of Daoism. Specifically, we're going to go over the topics of control, desire, knowledge that versus knowledge how, and eventually we're going to culminate to Wu Wei and how it influences his life as a student athlete. So Joe, thank you for coming here tonight. How have you been?
I'm been good. Great weekend.
Great weekend.
Great
You had a
weekend.
good weekend?
Been a pleasure of getting to know you this year, and happy to be here. So kind of finally record one of those deep conversations we can have.
Hey, I'm happy to have you on the show. Now, this won't be the regular show. We're definitely gonna have another talk. Yeah, because
it better not be the last one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you just be kind of like building it up, and then like, I just need you for this project, and then.
Oh no. We're gonna go one off the cuff. You know what I mean?
I like that.
But so first, I want to start out with some control and how Daoism looks at control. So the way they look at control is they say you shouldn't necessarily seek it out. It shouldn't be something that you seek out, and that when you try to control too many things, it actually causes agony versus, what would you want is control. So a lot of times what they say in Daoism is like there's this thing called like the 10,000 things. And the 10,000 things could be like, knowledge you're getting or just materialistic stuff. But as you build up these 10,000 things, that becomes 10,000 things you're responsible of. And so what the Taoists believe is that human nature is naturally modest, so you should not try to over control if you can, and rather, be empty, because really the environment is ever changing, and so you can't always control. So I just want to know, like, in your life as a student athlete, where has like control, overtaken your life in the sense of sometimes you try to over control and it's gone positive or negatively?
No, it's an interesting one, because I think before you asked me, we kind of talked about like, oh yeah, a really interesting topic and all that, and I kind of thought, yeah, like the goalkeeping position is one that's all about control. It's a very mental position. You're not always physically doing something. You're either kind of controlling, surveying, analyzing when something will happen, and how do you like set up for when that situation happens, and it requires a lot of concentration. But you're never in control, because you have to wait till something occurs for you to be able to do something. As a player in the field, you go towards the ball, and as a goalkeeper, you have to wait for the ball to come towards you. And that's something that's interesting, especially if you make a mistake or you're not in the game. You don't have control about it. You don't have control at all. You literally have to wait for someone to bring you into the game, to use you, to bring out the best side of you. And there's been periods, phases, or maybe even a season where if you've not been playing well, you don't have that control of yourself, and you start trying to bring yourself into a game. And then that's when you start making decisions that you shouldn't be making, coming into positions on the field, in between balls, in between actions where you shouldn't even be. You should be waiting in a certain area, waiting for the ball to come to you, and then make that decisive save. And that's something that's quite interesting, where it's like, now that I've become a bit older, a bit more experienced, more games, more trainings, I've kind of let that go a little bit more, and kind of just wait for my time, wait when I'm needed. And then all the while I'm just trying to stay calm, stay collected, and just surveying, waiting, being patient, and not trying to bring things towards me that aren't coming towards me.
Would you say that when you were younger, there was times at which, like you said, you try to control too much, like you come out into the play and like you ever mess up and it end up negatively, like they score on you, like, someone takes it off you?
I think the best example that comes to mind, and I wouldn't say scarring, but it was, especially in the beginning. It was my first game when I it was my first professional game at Ajax, or professional game. It was my first competition game in the academy when we were playing pro there. And there's a through ball, and I misanalyze it, and we're a team that plays very high up, so the defensive line is high, and then the goalkeeper's outside of the 16-yard box doing stuff with his legs, with his feet, with his head. And this is a through ball where I thought, I need to get in between here. This is the style of play we're trying to play. I need to make myself known. I need to show that I'm worthy of this team, this position, this club. And I come out, I'm young, I'm eager, and I completely mistime it. And I end up basically tackling this guy without getting anywhere near the ball, just because it was like, missed the ball, body in with my shoulder.
Did you get carded?
Red card.
Red card.
Only red card in my career. I would say it was. I learned a lot from that moment.
Out of the game.
Out of the game. It was a cup game. We ended up losing on pens. It was a harsh lesson. I guess that's sports. That's life. But that really, along with a lot of other lessons, really taught me how you shouldn't be running towards things that aren't coming towards you. You shouldn't be trying to grab things that aren't there for the taking, that aren't coming your way. Which is why I also find it so interesting that we're talking about this, because of the mental, like I said, mental aspect. You have a lot of goalkeepers that have mental coaches.
Yeah.
So it's really a position thing. So yeah, it's me slowly trying to let go and kind of just letting it come towards me and then react instead of kind of cutting.
Do you think there are things that, as a goalie, that if you try not to control, that it would make just the game easier? I don't know if that makes sense. So I guess an example would be, instead of trying to always control, okay, like we're gonna push the ball up, you just give it out to the defender in front of you. And like, how does that work differently than if you're really trying to control and like place it far down the field or something?
No, yeah, I think you're right there. It's the way you phrase it is interesting. Like, as a goalkeeper, you're not only just making saves, but you're also on the ball. And then you are in control, but at the same time, you still need to react to the play, because I can't move from a goal kick. Even if you want to play out, if everything's blocked, there's no options, everyone's man marked, I can force it how I want to force it, but then either there's mistakes, or I bring other people in difficult spots, or I bring myself in difficult spots. And I can tell you I've done that. I've tried to force a certain style of play. I've been the teams, a pit we play a certain way, which I really enjoy. Now that I've more matured, I've kind of been able to make those decisions a lot better, with the mental aspect of things, of being calm, reacting to a situation, instead of saying, okay, this is what I want to achieve, this is what I expect from the situation, even though that's totally not the situation. So that's something that's very relevant, where I've kind of tried to read the situation more and react to it, instead of really trying to pull it towards me, or I'm just going to force through it, even though the door's not open for that way, and I'm trying to barge through it, and then in the end, the door smacks you back in the face. I'll tell you that. So no, it's very relevant.
Yeah. So you think this idea of not too much control is is kind of essential sometimes in your life, on and off the pitch?
No, 100%. I think it's all about balance in the end. Sometimes you need to take a little bit of control, but it's all about understanding that you can't control everything. On the field, off the field. I said this past year, COVID. You can't control that you can't be outside or can't be doing certain things that you wish you'd be doing. I took a step back from the field to kind of maybe enjoy my social life a bit more. And in the end, I ended up locked down for a year, where I was like, if I would have still been in a pro organisation, okay, I could have still trained every day, this and that. Then I went semi-pro. They locked down semi-pro. Can't control it. Tried to enjoy my time and mentally, did yoga and breathing and meditation, and just worked on myself, walk my dog, like be outside in nature when it was allowed. And I guess there's a period of time where I really learned, like, yeah, I'm really able to do this. Like, I'm in a certain place mentally and physically where I have that control of myself, but I also have the ability to let all control go and kind of just flow.
And going off of that, trying to, I guess, control your life in many aspects, but understanding that you can't always control your life. I feel like something that comes up is desire. Like, you always have a desire to do something, whether or not you act on it. You have desires. So in Daoism, the way they look at desires is they want you to live more naturally and free from like desires and wanting too much. And they say, like, if you have, excessive desires, it can not only cause problems on you, but also problems on, other people. So one thing that I had read in, the Dao De Jong that we were going over in class is that, this was the Dao De Jong was a reaction to the Warring States period. And so they were specifically kind of telling royals, like, hey, like, don't desire too much, because like your people need you as well. And so they were like, okay, knowing contempt will, help you avoid disgrace, because you're also providing for your people. And if you're contempt, you're staying rich, because you don't have too much excess desire.
Right.
So I would say, like, as a student athlete, especially as, you know, let's be real, you're foreign, have the accent, because if they ain't foreign, it's boring. And then also, you know, as a D1 athlete, you have these girls, you have, you know, other schools contacting you, all of that coming together. And like, you might have desires like, oh, like, hey, this school hit me up, or like, this girl hit me up. How does that like come into play in your life as like a student athlete with so many, I would say, A1 desires coming at you already?
Yeah, it's especially when I was back playing at home, back in Holland. I was on a very strict regime. I think I did very well in that environment just because my passion was so into the sport that I wasn't as distracted. But I had this one friend. He'd call me every Friday night for like the first maybe three months. I think 3 months straight, every Friday. I'd be with my family, while most people would be like, right after school, okay, we'll meet up there, you know, or we get changed, then we just go to a park from there, go to eat somewhere, and then from there we'll go for drinks, meet everyone, go to a party, this and that. Yeah. And he'd call me every Friday, and then he'd be like, Joe, what are you doing?
Oh, what are the moves? What are the moves?
Are you coming this time? Is this the weekend? This and that. And I was like, it's Friday. I got a game tomorrow. Like, but still, I can't deny. Like, obviously, there's a social side of me. I'm a very social person, but it's a desire that I had to control. I had to be like, nah. If I want to achieve this, I need to put certain desires aside, socially, or you know,
some sacrifices.
Sacrifices. I think that's very similar to desires, where you have to make choices in what you want to achieve. You can't achieve 1,000 desires. I wish it was the case. I'd be a lot more successful if I could do everything that was on my to-do list.
I mean, it's like I said, the 10,000 things. You can't have it all. Then it becomes agony.
It's impossible. So especially with the sport and then with school and back home, you know, I was working to kind of, you know, prepare to come over here, and it's a lot of stuff you gotta leave behind. So it was like trainings Friday, schoolwork Friday night, eat right. Groceries, all that kind of stuff, and then next day you got the game. Maybe you still got to do some schoolwork. Maybe then you do some social things. A girlfriend back home. That also, you know, it takes time. You know, want to give someone a certain amount of attention, but at the same time not get too distracted by everything that comes with it. And then on Sundays I'd always work, so like that's my whole weekend just flying by.
So would you say in your life that your positive desires definitely overshadowed your negative desires, and through that you were able to kind of find the balance that you have today?
I would say in sport that's definitely the case.
In sport, okay.
I would say as a student athlete and back in Holland as well, I would be missing 4 classes a week. So the last class of every day just to go to training on time, eat right, eat the club, have all the therapy and extra training, all that kind of stuff. So it's hard, and it's easier because on the sports side of things, because it's my passion. So maybe it's an easy desire to, you know, to work hard on and to kind of stay focused on. And school I enjoyed, but it's a bit more of a grind to especially when you're tired, when you're sore, you've had a long day or whatever, to kind of still after a training session or before or plan around. Like it's a lot of long-term thinking, and that's something that I definitely, even now, or I think that's with a lot of people, that's something that planning is something that you'll never perfect. But that's something that I definitely, like I said, I'd rather do another workout than another hour of study. So that's something that, as if I look critically at myself, that's definitely something I'd really want to work on.
So when it comes to, I guess, we'll say, desires in your academic life, because we all know, you know, you have to balance both, and with the team, obviously they overshadow and, you know, push you in one direction. Right. But how do the desires of what you want to perform like on the pitch affect your desires in the classroom, knowing that you're still a student here at the university?
Well, I think it's like a bit of a dangerous combination. Not that everything's organized perfectly here. I don't think I could wish more from the way we have a study center, we have academic advisors, we have access to tutoring, but you still need to plan around it, you need to make time, you need to get there. Like it sounds very trivial, but if you've had a leg day, you've had a tough session on the field, quick nap before going to the study center becomes not quite a quick nap. and especially
you hit the snooze and then a couple hours later,
or even like such important things like when it comes to recovery, when like eating, like sometimes it's nearly where it's like, do I go study center now? And then it's kind of tough when it comes to my groceries or cooking, all that kind of stuff. It all takes away from your time. And there's only certain hours in a day, and we start early, then you have your classes, but you don't get your work done in class. You got to do it after. So it's tough in that regard. And back home, it was maybe a bit of a tough time to come here after a year of being at home. It was so easy to cook, do your homework assignments online. There's no travel. I didn't really have the trainings as regularly. We had phases where I was just training at home, just doing home workouts. There's literally just in one spot, so it makes it so easy. I didn't only have to worry about food.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes everything so simple and so, I guess, flawless. And then from there, you have to come back to a whole new, from moving, new people, new environments, new teammates, just making a pressure on everyone, and you go from 0 to 100 really. So it's a grind, I have to say.
Wow. Do you think that, especially with the balance that you have, knowing that they put a lot of pressure and time on you to be an athlete,
right?
Do you and then obviously you have your social life outside of like what you do with your friends, yada yada yada. Do you think that your desires outside, like socially, are dependent on like what they have you do like throughout the week? Like, you know, if you had a rough week, you like, you know, I maybe want to send it more or have a good time with friends. Like, how does that affect your desires? Just like, you know, how much they put you through, like your outside desires.
No, I understand. It really varies. Like, I think it depends on energy wise. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, it's been rough sessions, I need my sleep more. And then sometimes once you finally get that period where it's like, oh, 2 days off, or it'd be nice to, you know, go to a restaurant with friends. But at the same time you want to, but sometimes you're like, I don't even have the energy, even though I'd want to. So it really depends on the week and the mood. I feel like I'm never really one to kind of, I wouldn't say I'm introverted. I try to be social. I love new environments, new experiences. So being here, I feel like I want to seize the opportunity to like these kind of interactions. You know, it's very different. It's not the same type of conversations that I'd have with a typical Dutch friend, and that's what I love about it, because I've had that for years. I've kind of yeah, exactly. Like, I like to bring some stuff over, you know, some stuff across the channel, but in that way, it's really interesting to you know, kind of do these new things and have these new conversations. But it's like I said, I think it is dependent on the study load, the training load, the away days. Like, all in all, it really adds up real fast. And now, you know, we're in a period where we're training a bit less, which I also struggle with now mentally. Like, should I be doing more? Should I be doing less? Should I be resting? Should I be training more in the gym? Should I be doing stuff on the field? Because, you know, you don't want to lose a flow that you've kind of built up over a certain amount of months. But yeah, I've kind of as I've got older, I've kind of been like, I guess the nagging voices have been put to bed, and it's more suggestions. And then from there, I kind of pick out, what do I really think is relevant and what do I really need? And I also have the confidence in myself where it's like, I work hard enough when I need to work hard on the field, in the gym, wherever's needed. So these couple of days off, that's caught up in a second. Yeah.
Do you think there's been a moment in this year where, let's say, like an excessive desire has kind of taken over and affected you negatively?
To be fair, I have a good example. I guess there was this period where back home wasn't going so well with my grandparents. My grandpa got COVID, my grandma got COVID, and then my grandpa got unwell because of COVID, then he fell. And in that period, it was like also a really tough period physically. Not that I wasn't enjoying the trainings, but just a combination of that, a bit of the mental stuff of just not being there for my family, especially for my grandparents. I knew that my parents were traveling a lot with work. And I also knew that I was always doing a lot for my grandparents, so I'd always take them out for lunch or bring them food or that kind of stuff, especially the last year when schedules was a bit more calm. I spent all of summer during COVID just like doing little things around the house, which I sat on the pitch. I got a left hand and a right hand. I got two left hands when it comes to tools, you name it. But like, both my grandparents are handy, but obviously they're not as fit anymore, so I was doing a lot for them. And just knowing that, like, I couldn't really be there for them, and then just like a bit of a grind. It was getting a bit colder, all that kind of stuff kind of built up. I was taking too many naps. There was this 7-8 day period. It was like class. It was training, class, and just I was sleeping during the day. And that was a period where I was like, it's not really me, because I could be 24 hours, like just like doing training. I could like train 3 times a day, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day during COVID, just because restlessness. You know what I mean? And it was like really opposite of how I really am. And then at one point I was like, whoa, like the days are just flying by, because I'm sleeping like 2 hours, you know, during the day, and then can't sleep at night, and then you're sleeping more the next day during the day. And then I was kind of like scared to, like, I didn't want to tire my grandparents out because they were just recovering. Then we FaceTimed, I kind of got it off my chest, and then from there, you know, like it was kind of a release. And then from there, we kind of moved on, and then it was just too much. At one point, I was sleeping too much, and not doing my other things. You know,
so it was like desiring too much sleep.
It was subconscious, but I was just in need of just switching off. And it was for a couple of days, it was alright, and then it got a little bit out of hand, where I was like, I'm missing conversations with you, or with Brandon, or with friends, or roommates, or just getting certain stuff done, getting the laundry, like just, you know, I was eating out a little bit more, because like, I slept 2 hours, I can't get the groceries now, this kind of stuff. So it was, I would say, definitely excessive. And after a couple of days, you know, pull yourself out of it, you take a cold shower, and you know, you're ready to go.
You take that
cold shower, and you're like,
oh, okay,
it's real now.
Back to real world.
Yeah.
All right, so like our next concept here is knowledge that versus knowledge how. I'm sure this will very much relate to your life on the pitch. So in Daoism, like, knowledge that is more so like instructions, or, you know, information that you gather from like outside sources, or information given to you, versus knowledge how is like, you know, just your experience, or I would say knowledge gained through action. So in your life, I would say, you know, let's do both. Let's do both, you know, as we've been flowing. It's kind of just been flowing either way. But so like specifically right now on the pitch, how has like knowledge that, or instruction, been different than knowledge how, but in the end essential? Because I feel like for me, like whenever I was growing up playing ice hockey, a lot of times like a coach, they would, you know, give you a pointer or something, and you're just like, okay, like give me that pointer, and then you experience it, but without having the initial knowledge that, or like information, you don't know whether you would have experienced that. So like I kind of want to know, in like your specific experiences as like a student athlete, knowledge that versus knowledge how really, like, you know, changed your life on the pitch.
It's I would say, again, very relatable to what we talked about earlier as well, is that knowledge how, like, and knowledge that, it's 2 different things, but you need a bit of both. When it comes to goalkeeping, we do video analysis, we look at things that we really analyze, and it seems very clear when you're looking at it, and you need those instructions, but without one or the other, without doing it and maybe analyzing it after, or talking about it first, okay, this is what we're doing in the training session. In the moment, you're like, why are we doing this exercise? Like, I can't see it in front of me. Like, what is the beneficial factor of, because I can do this, or I know what's going on, or I know what to expect on game day. And then you're doing it, first couple of reps, it's not, you know, I'm not in the right position, or I'm not doing this or that, or I'm kind of being surprised by how the ball is moving and where the position of the striker is. And then you kind of link back again. It's like, this is exactly what we talked about. Try and look at it like this, now that you've experienced it a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
And then like the puzzle pieces click together. It's like, we talked about it in that way. How did we look at it on the board? How does that relate to on the field? Because sometimes on the pitch you're flowing, which is usually a good thing. But sometimes you do need that bit of, hey, this is where we need you to be. Not just going through the motions, but really mentally thinking, okay, I want my hands in this position when the striker's doing this. Or I really need to be setting my feet when the leg's swinging back. If I'm still moving, trying to get to the middle of the goal, I'm getting in the middle of the goal, but I'm getting it too late, so then I can't react anyways because I'm not set. So it's these things where when you've looked at it in detail before or after, and then you combine that with experience, that's like the ideal combination.
The ideal combination.
Yeah.
So would you say, does one have more influence on you or as another? Because I feel like sometimes when, you know, I was playing ice hockey growing up, sometimes it was like, okay, if the coach told me something, it would automatically click and I understood the significance of what he was saying, versus other times I had to experience something to understand the significance of what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we have so many video sessions. It sometimes it's after, sometimes it's before.
Mm-hmm.
But I would really say, like, when it comes to knowledge, that before after, it both helps. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if when you're doing it after, you're like, why did we do this before? Sometimes you need to kind of get dropped in the middle of nowhere and flail. And in Dutch, you'd kind of say you bring your fishing rod to the session, because you just. I'm fishing all the balls out the net sometimes in a certain exercise until you have that knowledge that you talk about, and then from there, okay, how do I link that to knowledge how? And it's a process, one where you have to sometimes
action.
With action, but sometimes you get both puzzle pieces and it clicks ridiculously easy. But sometimes the coaches want you to figure out as well, especially tactically. You can't always have that voice in, or the coach standing, like in the goalkeeper session, we'll sometimes have a coach behind us. It's like, oh, look at this, look at that. Some positions, sometimes you'll have a right winger who's standing on the touchline. The coach can talk a lot first half, but not second half, or the other way around. As a goalkeeper, you're always quite far from that middle of the field, especially that sideline. So you get the occasional shout, but sometimes you need to experience it. You just need to flail. The coach lets you do that, and then you get that knowledge.
So which knowledge in that sense would you say is more important?
I would definitely say knowledge how.
Knowledge how, so that you need the experience to kind of build it up.
Oh, 100%. You need to, like I said, you need to flail, you need to witness it, you need to kind of take that L sometimes and kind of know how it feels and be like, hey, like that
you need to come out to that kid and you need to
clock him with your shoulder and be like, I'm not playing rugby back in no more.
Get that red card.
Yeah, get the red card and be like, and then you just know. Then you just know how it is, you know how to experience it, and then from there you just apply it.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I feel like I'm more of an experience type. Honestly, just more of a visual learner. So like, you can say something and I won't catch it, but let me watch it and like I'll pick it up. So like for me, I feel like experience-wise is like the biggest, at least teacher for me. So it's like if I do reps, of something. So like I was taking a piano class this semester. If I did reps, I really got it. Yeah. But if you just tell me, oh, like you have to hit that and that and combine it together and you'll be good, it just wasn't there. So I feel like in my life personally, knowledge how has had more influence than knowledge that. And so like I want to know, like as an athlete here at Pitt, like which one has had a bigger impact on your performance?
I'd definitely say it's knowledge how. That's an easy choice for me, just because also I know the way how I study. Like I need to be seeing it in front of me. Like I can't be listening with my eyes closed. Like that's not working for me. Like if the teacher needs to be doing a little bit more for me when it comes to a presentation or that kind of thing. And knowledge how is really more that physical side of things. And that's the same on the field. I need to experience it. We can do a lot of tactics on the board, but it feels best for me when we combine that, or we kind of focus it definitely a lot more than 50% on that. Okay, I've got the ball on my feet. What am I seeing in front of me?
Yeah.
It's not just like markers on a board, or it's not a whiteboard with a couple arrows and X's and O's.
I think the biggest thing for me between knowledge how and knowledge that is that like with knowledge how, it's the experience aspect. So if you get in a certain amount of reps, you kind of you lower your cognitive like thinking and you just react. Yeah. And so you start trusting your lower capacities. And I think that's something that you can't always utilize whenever it's knowledge that because knowledge that because it's given to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I've had enough video analysis, enough tactical discussions, and I just prefer to be in the field and just experience it. Okay, if I make this pass, it doesn't work. Why? Because he's standing there. Because I've experienced that. And sometimes I don't think you kind of get the gravity of the situation when, okay, yeah, this is you. You're the little marker with number 1 on it. and then you're a red marker, and the other guy's a white marker, and he's going to be standing there, so you can't be passing there.
Yeah.
Like in combination, yeah, and then after the fact, and with all the you know, the things that we kind of work on and talk about, it helps. But it's really that physical experience that really makes the lesson a lot harder to learn.
Yeah.
Because you're physically losing in that regard. But from there,
so like from there it just goes. So this next topic I want to touch on, just for time's sake, because the video only has so much time.
Oh yeah.
So does this. So shout out if you're watching on the video, then we only have so much time. If you're just listening to the podcast, we got plenty of time, but we're basing this on the video. So anyway, the next topic here is Wu Wei. So Wu Wei is a topic that we have really gone over a lot in this Chinese philosophy class that has been fantastic this entire semester. I mean, I mentioned it to you before.
Yeah.
And so
I've heard too much about it.
yeah. Right.
Hey,
No, we don't need that.
You've been pushing on me. I like it.
So anyway, so Wu Wei is pretty much to follow the way, and it's really action through non-action, or you know, something that we really spoke about in classes. It's kind of like flowing like water. You know, like if you force water, you know, you'll crash like a wave. You know, you'll build up and then you'll crash. But if you just flow like water, you know, you can trickle down wherever. Like you fall down a waterfall, you go into a stream, you flow into the ocean. You're just literally flowing. But if you force things, then it can go bad or it can go right. It depends at times. But really, the concept of Wu Wei in Daoism, they're really trying to, you know, relate this idea of action through non-action and how it's like a noble way of living, essentially. So like, I want to know in your life, how has, you know, sometimes doing less given you more? Or like, you know, you've shown action through non-action, you know? Well,
before I start saying that, has anyone ever said you have a way with words? Because the way you just described Wu Wei is.
I hope you get it. I get it.
I get it. And you were flowing like water when you were explaining it. I'll tell you that. For real. No, for real.
I try to simplify it because
but
I feel like if I go off, it would just go off.
I like the way. I know how when someone gets distracted because I know how it is. But no, you explained it well. Yeah, Wu Wei through flowing. I 100%. I feel that when it comes to me coming here, I let that ride just ride. I set it in motion, kind of too late, just because COVID and everything else. And in the beginning, I was like, it's going to be so hard to come here. The US in lockdown, Europe's in lockdown. It's such a messy situation. I really want it to happen. I can be texting every different agent, every coach, it's not going to make a difference in that way. I think it was a bit of maturity and a bit of realization that it was such a difficult situation that it was going to happen, it would happen. That's the kind of luck I needed in that situation. I talked to the right people, and then from there I just sat back and I was like, just let me know in 2 or 3 months when you have something concrete.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I really can't do anything about it.
So really, when like the way you got to Pitt is you, obviously, I mean, nothing happens through nothing. Like, you know, let's be real. But you put in, I guess, your initial action.
Right.
And then you just sat back, and then like things started to build up, and the way they were.
It was kind of funny because I didn't seek it out myself. An old teammate of mine, he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, COVID lockdown, Holland shut down. I know you're playing semi-pro right now. We played pro together. I'm playing pro out here. My agent, he brings guys from here who are playing pro or not quite making it pro, bring them out to the US. Would you be interested?" So I think that's kind of the start of how things flowed. Was I was flowing my way in Holland, and my friend who was playing in Cyprus, he's like, "Do you want me to do something for you?" I was like, "Set it in motion and we'll see." And that's kind of how I went into it. I had no expectations, no idea who this guy was. And he called me, we talked about it. I was like, just don't get my hopes up too soon. Literally, like, it's such a difficult situation in Europe and the US right now. Just let me know in a couple of weeks. We did talk, obviously, and eventually I had to do some requests, grades, send things through. But aside from that, I wasn't texting regularly. Maybe what I would have done with my agent, what I did between transfers when I was playing different pro clubs. I'm like, hey, what about today? What's going on? What can I do? What are you doing? I just left it, and in the end, obviously with a lot of work, hard work from his end, but he knew what I was doing, and I knew that he knew what he was doing, and I was just leaving it.
Wow.
And I would have been too stressed if I was doing it the way I was doing it when I was 18.
Really?
Like I could not have done it because it was so chaotic, but it didn't feel that way because I just let it go. I guess we went. I just let it flow.
I guess we went. Okay, has the jokes. All right, so like, what I'll say is, after, I guess, that initial contact with your friend, and things started to flow, did you put in much effort after that, or are you just kind of waiting? And I guess, the action through non-action, like, things were coming up.
It was really like, I think the agent even told me, kind of like, not in the same philosophical way as we're talking about right now, because he was maybe a little bit more stressed about it in a business sense. But he said, okay, Joe, we're incredibly late. It's incredibly messy. Most schools have no place on their roster because it's so late in the year, everything's already sorted, but he's like, I'm going to do my best for you, I'm going to figure out. You have the qualities for it, you have the CV for it, you have the experience for it. And he's like, someone will reach out. And then from there, we had a couple options. But in that meantime, there were long periods of me waiting for the NCAA to get back to us. And both of us couldn't do anything. My agent couldn't do anything, I couldn't do anything. The NCAA had to analyze my case, certain like academic things, gap years, the interaction I had with pro teams. I was never signed fully professional, but I was training on an amateur contract with these teams, being part of the squad there. And I just had to literally say, I just hope they let me through in that way. So it was actually a lot of letting go, which was ironic in this situation now that we're talking about it. But I had to embody a lot of Wu Wei. If I
yes, you can.
In after the fact, I have to admit to it. But I'm glad I did, because otherwise I was on holiday trying to enjoy my off time while this was all going on. A couple calls from my agent, but other than that, just enjoy. Literally me flowing through the water in Spain while trying to wait for this move to go through.
Wow, in Spain, so you're chilling, you're having a good time.
I was trying.
Okay. Trying to control the circumstances, at least be a nice setting.
Control, with a nice meal here and there, just to kind of control the emotions. Yeah, feel a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Not too much. Not excessive. Not excessive.
Getting the gym work in as well, just to kind of balance everything out.
Yeah, I get that. So, can you name a time this year when you really kind of fell into a flow? Maybe it was just for a game, maybe it was a couple days streak of studying, and how it kind of maybe it was a turning point in this semester.
I think it's this one training, like one specific training. I came here late in the preseason, or basically at the end of preseason. I was gym fit, I would say. I looked fit physically. But cardio, goalkeeper training, just the adrenaline of flying left, right, center, getting up, then having to ping a ball accurately, getting back up again, making a save, all that kind of stuff. Like, I was conditionally not where I wanted to be, just because we didn't have a season in Holland for a whole year. Yeah. I come here, train for a couple of weeks, and then there's this one training. First of all, I get smacked in my eye by a ball, and it doesn't even catch me on the face. It kind of clips my eye. And my eyelids folded double. I'm like, and the first thing I do is did I save it? Yes. And then I was like, oh my god, well I can't see my right eye. And then from there, got up, physio checked it out, it was fine. And then the train just flowed from there. Just literally went hard, didn't think about it, just flew out. I was already being hit in the face once this training.
What were you gonna worry about after that?
Can't get any worse. You know what I mean?
I literally got hit.
I'm sitting next to this guy. You know what I mean? So that's how I'm feeling right now. No. But I got clipped. I was like, oh, that's gonna be a black eye for a couple of weeks, but a couple of days at least. But the train just flowed from there. Yeah. And that was kind of also me letting go. That could have ended worse when the ball hit my eye. But at the same time, saved it. Okay, that's a good sign. And then we just flew out and not forcing it. Just with the confidence of I'm flying out when I need to fly out. I'm staying in my goal when I need to stay. So all in all, a couple of relevant topics here is the control, just waiting for things to happen, letting it come towards me, and then just dealing with the situation. And not, I need to prove myself in this training. So yeah, I that was my best training of the year as well. And then we did a bit of video analysis after, kind of talked about how and how we had to do things better in the moments where it needs to be better, but also just, you know, enjoyed what went right and kind of sat back and saying, okay, this is what I need to be at, and this is what I want to be doing for the rest of the semester as well, this kind of level.
That's awesome, because like I feel like I've had times where before you, like, you know, you don't have that balance. You don't have that balance, and because you don't have that balance, you can't necessarily fall into a flow. Because I feel like a lot of times with flow, it comes from everything else behind you is like just even keeled or balanced. So then, like, okay, like I could fall and like I'm just flowing. Versus like if you have things like up and down, like, or things like messing in your mind, then you can't necessarily get to that state. So like my next question is like, has there been a moment like this year specifically that you remember where like you desired, I guess, to get into like the state of like Wu Wei, where, you know, you're just kind of flowing, but like you couldn't?
No, yeah, it kind of links to what we just talked about, is that conditioning thing. So especially on the pitch, I was not cardio ready for the first couple sessions. So it was me just trying to play catch up, and I was not flowing. I was trying to just stay in. I was not flowing with the stream. I was getting absolutely torn by the stream. I was in the rapids. I was hitting rocks on the way there, and it was a sore couple of weeks. But I stayed fit, stayed healthy, stayed calm. But at the same time, always kind of just like, when is that flow coming in? Do you know what I mean? Like, when can I train in a certain way where it's going the way I want it to go? And yeah, that's also a flow. But yeah, eventually we got there to a point where, okay, you know, I can finally kind of elevate my sessions. And that made me feel better. And then from there, that's when I got into that flow. So I guess it was also kind of putting my head down, not threatening too much about certain things that I can't control yet. I'm not where I want to be right now, but I'll be where I want to be when I'll be there. In the meantime, just work hard. And then you can't do much more than that. I can worry about it, and then you're not going to train better.
Well, I gotta agree with that. You know, you can't work harder than you can. You know, you gotta put in that effort, but you know, you can't desire too much out of it.
Definitely not.
You know, you gotta find that state of Wu Wei. So I just want to thank all our viewers today for listening to our little podcast here. This is episode 1. You will see Joe on the podcast again. This was on the cuff. You'll see off the cuff later. But I want to thank you all. Thank you, Joe, specifically for coming out today.
Yeah, I really appreciate the invite. Enjoyed it. And I don't know if we can post off the cuff, though. I'm joking.
We'll find out.
We'll see after the recording.
We'll see there'll be some editing.
We'll kind of have to cut some stuff out.
Exactly.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for coming through.
I'll definitely be there next time.
Yeah, for sure. So, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Interview with Joe Van de Sar on some of the teachings of Daoism. Have a good night, y'all.